All right. I'm going to take a chance here that we're actually recording stuff and it's going to the proper location. Now, got to switch some things around here first. I just noticed my webcam is not even pointed at me. Oh boy. Time to get a haircut. Look at this. It's just way too long for me. What a crazy month. I know I've been away for a while, and I promised not to be. And life is crazy like that. So many things going on in life. I mean, getting older, trying to face the fact of getting older and that, and dealing with that, and all the changes and the stress of life, and moving around and reorganizing and reconfiguring, and still reconfiguring, still doing a lot of things to change up things. Hopefully, making them better in the future. Hope time will tell. But the problem is, while all of that is going on in my little bit of the world, right here, it's life changes around you too. I mean, you hear things like the whole big thing that everyone's making fuss about is the changes in traditional media, and why some people seem so surprised with them. I don't know. I don't know why people feel surprised about anything anymore. Quite frankly, it wasn't surprising to me at all. It wasn't. Why it wasn't surprising? Because, let's face it, the fact that I'm engaging this conversation on the very same internet that everyone else can use to do the exact same thing as me, to disseminate to hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe millions of people who choose freely to engage in conversations with me or choose to watch me talk to them is staggering. Could I have predicted that 20 years ago? No. Could I have predicted something like this happening given the fact the way the internet is growing and growing exponentially? Yeah, I kind of did. Just not like this. The fact that us as humans want to be stars. That's not surprising. Things like YouTube and TikTok and all these other services, Twitch and all these things, have taken up like wildfire because what they have done for the space, more than anything, is democratized it for everyone. Everyone can get in the game now, not just the average person. And this is why in the end it shouldn't have came as a surprise to what happened recently. The big story in Canada right now, I mean, it's a Canadian story. Obviously, it's not a worldwide story, but it's a story happening everywhere. It's happening in every country, everywhere in the world, everywhere that has traditional media usage, and everyone that has this type of thing going on in terms of the culture change. The story about Lisa LaFlamme. Okay, everyone say, "Oh my God, Lisa LaFlamme. She's been fired because she's an old woman." Emphasis on the old, emphasis on the woman. By misogynist men who hate old women. Is that the only thing they can come up with? Is that the only angle they can come up with on this thing? Is that the only way they can see this thing? The answer is yes. Why? Because they're looking for a reason to blame someone for her demise. Even she's looking for a reason. But let's face it, Lisa LaFlamme, like many of the women in her generation, like many of the men in her generation, like many of the people in this transitional time between the traditional and the new multimedia internet-based things, even the big boys like CTV are gotten caught behind the eight ball. They're in a race scrambling to try and reconfigure, restructure, to reimagine themselves in a world where eventually broadcast television may not exist anymore. At least not in the form that's existed for the longest time. TV is evolved, and so has the internet. And because of that evolution, we are facing a rapid change on everything. Absolutely everything is done. And this is going to be a change that's going to happen for a while. It's going to happen even worse. So Lisa LaFlamme's so-called dismissal from her job unexpectedly is kind of funny, because the fact is, if she was as smart as she claims she is, an astute reporter as she claims to be, I think the problem is that she's probably smart. She's probably pretty astute. The problem is she's been inside the constant installation of a newsroom far away, remote from the scene of what's happening out in the real world, where the other reporters that earned their dues, like I'm sure she did once upon a time when she started out, got there and out the hustings and saw news happen. Uh, she'd been insulated from it, and because of that, she obviously was not uh, accepting the fact that her job and the role of news and the role of media has been changing rapidly, and her departure from it at the time was purely, really going down to a business decision. Bell Globe Media, like every other media company, is looking at trying to make itself relevant to its audience, trying to revamp itself to make it relevant to the world and the way things are going to happen, the way news happens. They realize even they can't continue relying on subsidies from government forever to continue to be a quote, quote, news organization. Because what's happened is they've sold themselves out to the devil, mainly the government, mainly whatever the prevailing government is. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, well, the conservatives are probably doing the exact same thing as the liberals. If they ever get in power, they're going to invest it and use it the same way the liberals have to control the media, to control the narrative, control everything. I know the NDP probably definitely would be a party that would definitely use the media for whatever social or economic or whatever cause they have, whether it be social justice or whatever it is. The main ideology is going to be reflected in the state media because it is the state media. I mean, even though it's for more or less part becoming a quasi-private broadcaster, let's face it, CBC is not a private broadcaster. It's a public broadcaster who is topped up partly with public and private money, because it's been forced over time to become competing with the other networks for money because the government over time has been attempting to wean the CBC off the nation's teat, for lack of a better word. And become a relevant third party in this two-horse race. Why I call it two-horse? Because there's only two real horses, two predominant horses, who are private broadcasters, and even they are having trouble with dealing with the reality of the new world order on TV, especially the news, especially promoting the news. And attempting to be objective at the same time while accepting money from the government is a hard mountain. So a lot of times they have to cross over and go as close as they can without offending the masters at bay, the ones that actually control. In the case of Lisa LeFlamme, she was a national anchor. Sure, she had lots of popularity. Sure, she had a large audience. But the fact was, let's face it, that audience has been declining for all the networks quite radically over the last 10 or so years and will continue to decline as more and more people look for their news elsewhere. The old generation of people like me that used to watch TV traditionally is going away. And it's going to be continuing away. The new generation doesn't watch TV, and the cable companies and delivery systems that deliver traditional TV, which are Bell too. Bell is itself part of its company, is part of the problem because it is switching over quite rapidly on its one side of the business, the consumer side and delivery business, to working in a model that supports type of thing that eventually will kill broadcast television, which is what they bought. What they did is they bought a lot of IPs, they bought a brand recognition, they bought content and a content source for their own potential streaming platforms as they are rolling them out as they speak. And the news, 24-hour news, was basically an attempt to try and bridge it because they knew it was coming. And people don't watch news at a specific time of day anymore. People watch news whenever they want to watch news. And the 24-hour news was a sort of way, a stopgap to the way that eventually news would be delivered over the internet 24 hours a day on whatever disc you want and any way you want. And see, this is what happens. Again, this is when it happens when you talk too long. So what's happening is that Lisa LeFlamme is a cultural dinosaur. Not just because she's old, not just because she's a woman. It's because she's too expensive. For the amount of value she brings to the equation, the amount of people that actually get to watch her, the audience compared to the fact of the size of Canada and the size of the world, in terms of what advertisers are willing to pay to have her on the screen, how many bodies that she can bring into the screen to actually watch the shows and actually pay to advertise that think they're going to get relevant audience. It's happening as she's too inexpensive a commodity. And the fact is that she should be fairly lucky the fact that she had a platform that she managed to catch on to the custing end of this transition from traditional news to the new media news where anyone can be an internet star and anyone can be a reporter and anyone can be. That's why there's such a fight to attempt to delegitimize anyone that's not a professional reporter, because what happened is they're trying to say that only the professional reporters, the established reporters, can report news. And I hate to tell you that news was reported a long time ago by the kid coming into town going, hear ye, hear ye, here's the town from the news from the town next door. That was news. Anyone that had anything to report about anything from anywhere was a reporter of news. whether they were first hand, second hand, third hand, or what. They were chronicling bringing news to people who are desperately want to know about their neighbors, their friends, and their community. It doesn't mean you have to be established. The question is, the most important question is competence, credibility, and reliability. Those are the three sort of things people care about. Personality is another thing. People love personality. But ultimately, the day, they're not watching the news for personality as much. They're watching it for, is it going to be entertaining? Because also the thing about news now is because we are things that we don't just want to hear about things happening. We want to be entertainment. We don't hear about a lot of times misfortune. Misfortune always sells. Unfortunately, the more misfortune, the better. And what they also found is that if you have a fake story, if you can fake a story well enough, you can get enough people to believe it, that also sells. But the problem is now they're competing with lots of other people who are not corporate chills. They're not paid and subsidized by somebody along the way to report news the way that somebody else wants to, and they're getting it from all directions. We're getting news now from other countries on the internet. And this is why the government wants to bring this Canada-wide internet thing, Canadian content, not because they're trying to protect Canadians to make Canadians to be able to have an opportunity to see Canadian content. We have the opportunity. We are exporting more of our content outwards. I mean, guys like Linus Tech Tips and David, both from Canada, have bigger audiences in the States than their own country. Why? Because American audiences are bigger audience. But the fact is that the fact that Americans are even watching them, the fact they got American sponsors and they can come up and make most of the sponsors are American, and pretty well almost all of them are American for a Canadian channel because of the proximity to the States and our relationship with the States. The fact that we can create content here as Canadians that completes and is compelling to Americans in an international marketplace, we don't need the government to protect us from that. We need to export more of that. We need to promote more of that. We need to promote the fact of how we as Canadians can provide a unique way of promoting things, not just within our own country, but internationally on any topic, anywhere, and that. As far as having a government put a censorship bill to try and protect the feelings of the very few people that are afraid that somebody from somewhere is going to say something that's the wrong thing to say, or we're going to get news from a source that the government doesn't want us to see because they don't trust and they want to basically cuddle us and protect us from bad news that they don't like to hear, is not going to help it. And the fact is that this is what's happening in the world sphere of things. And the fact that Lisa Lifetime, I'm sorry to see her go. I'm sure her massively large pension and buyout package will comfort her. I hope she finds the solace in knowing that she got an opportunity to do something, maybe from a social justice thing about being a woman, a lead wanker and all that, because most people make a big deal about these issues. I don't think it's a really big deal. I think the fact is she doesn't matter if she's a male or female or a robot or an android. For the fact is anyone that makes it to news on the national stage, whether you're a man, woman, or alien life form, it's a big thing, because the fact is you only have so many places in the confines of what's called the national news to really shine. For a long time, there's been very few outlets for people to become big, and a lot of the ones that became really big eventually went to the States. Guys like Peter Jennings, Canadian. States, Alex Trebek, Canadian. How many Canadians do we have down in the States because they recognize in order to chase the really big audience, you had to go to the States. That's the only place you can get a big audience. And the problem is not only Americans watch those audiences, it's Canadians too, because we tend to follow American trends more than we follow our own. If you can get a Canadian to go on a Canadian broadcasting thing and a Canadian produced thing and have Canadians consume it without the government telling them they have to, that's something. And I congratulate Lisa Lifetime for building the audience she did. Congratulations for the time you had to do this. Just think how fortunate you are compared to all the people out there that had to fight and had to go on their own and become independent to fight because there was only so many spots, and you can't fill all the spots. So somebody's got to be the lead banker in the national networks in terms of the structure of the networks. But that structure is falling away. So the companies are trying to attempt to save money by finding ways of saving money by getting rid of the things that are not the best value. And unfortunately, Lisa, I'm sorry to say, you are not a valuable asset to CTV and to Bell Media anymore in terms of audience, because it's basically a value proposition. They're looking at how much you cost and how much money in revenue they bring in terms of audience share and how much advertising. At the end of the day, you're not bringing in the value that they're paying for the money. So, of course, they had to let you go in order to find a more way. They can hire a bunch of diversity hires of people, a large swath. Instead of just paying to one market, have one anchor, they can have 5 anchors for what they pay for you, or maybe 2 or 3. I don't know the ratio of your salary. I don't know how many idea your salary is, but I can imagine it's at least more than the average person was getting paid. And they can probably, with even with your severance, pay and have several people to represent and break the broadcast into a larger, more diverse offering, which is obviously the big buzzword now in terms of things to try and bring a larger audience, and maybe start to focus more things on the internet, where the audience really is, and where the audience for all of television or traditional television is eventually going to go. Because let's face it, maybe 40 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe less, traditional TV will no longer exist as the current generation people, the old ones, move out and are replaced by the generation that's used to being on things on streaming, when they can get it when they want, how they want, whenever they want. And there's no schedules anymore. You can schedule your program all you want. You can schedule anything you want and broadcast on the internet, but it can be viewed at any time someone wants to if they don't want to view it live. And that's going to be the big thing. Live broadcasts on the internet, a medium that you can reach millions, or probably billions of people around the world, as more nations eventually become democratized and allow the freedom of ideas to flow freely, which has the other side of bad ideas. And the thing is, bad ideas will always come out. There's many good ideas, you always get bad ideas. And the fact is, we have to be champions of the right for people with bad ideas to express ideas, and we have to be strong enough and resilient enough, and with the facts behind us, disprove those ideas, and so that we can convince people that have a brain that the good ideas win and the bad ideas lose. And even then, you'll still have people that won't believe you. They won't, because they choose not to, for whatever reason. Anyway, so unfortunately, Lisa, I see you go. I'm sure you'll figure something out. I mean, everyone else is going on the internet. You got Chris Como on the internet now through some sort of internet partnership, doing broadcasts there now, finding it. He's actually it's probably a smart thing to do, to go onto the internet now and take your name recognition you've got now and make it work for you. Make it work for you where you've got a little bit more autonomy and control, and you're less a puppet of the broadcast network game. That's what it is. It's a game. And the game is changing, and the ones that have recognized names that can leverage and make something of it, that can make this transition well, and you're a person that can do this, you obviously have a lot of life left, and you're getting on in age, but the fact is, I mean, there's broadcasts like Water Concut that went on for quite some time. There's Larry there. My brain's just fried now. Everyone knows who, they probably know who the Larry I'm talking about is, but the fact is, he's done awful well. And like I said, I'm sure Lisa LaFlamme will find a way of becoming relevant in Canadian broadcasting again some way. Maybe more internationally now that she's got the yokes of the network telling her what to do, and she can be more flexible, and she can run it at home and maybe enjoy her retirement, and basically take solace that the internet has gave her the ability to do. She doesn't have to go to breakfast anymore. She has to go through all these things, and she can be a little bit more informal, more personable, choose the story she wants to cover, maybe decide to become some part of another broadcast arm on the internet, the new media, if she chooses to, if she feels that she needs to have some support, or just start production like guys like Dave Rubin did. I mean, Rubin used to work for the Young Turks, and very, very leftist type of guy for a long time, but eventually realized his ideology was in conflict, was switching and becoming in conflict. He was going more libertarian. He was going more to the right. He was going more to left of center to parts of right of center. And he realized that his ideology was changing and was switching from the ideology that was originally part of what the Young Turks was. And eventually decided, hey, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go up my own, form my own network, and that will be the home where I will live, because it's the place that I live. And I can be who I am and be what I want to be and build an audience and let people know that I am a work in progress. We all are works in progress. We do not live in a vacuum. Our ideas are constantly changing with the way we view things. Anyone with half a brain will realize that your views from when you grew up and when you start life change over time. The influences of your life, family, friends, information, finding out things that you thought were true were lies, and things that you thought lies were true, and then building and doing a research and doing our homework, which is the thing I want everyone to do every time of day. Every time I talk to people on this, every time I want people to discuss something, I want people to do their homework. Don't listen to anyone and believe them gospel truth. There is nobody that's going to be totally true for you all the time. We're all going to be clouded by our own biases, and we're also going to be clouded by things that happen to us, and the fact that we sometimes get fooled, disinformation too. So the thing is that, like I said, media is changing. Lisa LaFlamme is just one of several victims of this change. This change is going to continue on. if those diversity hires think they've got a good job now, hey, at least sometimes go, they don't have to compete with her. We'll look at what's going to happen to them eventually as networks start to complete and news becomes less and less. And the major transition from a network on TV to the new network on the internet changes. There's going to be a lot of big changes. There's not going to be a lot of big names anymore. There'll be a lot of smaller names making a lot less money because the networks also are concerned with profit. Profit's an important thing for the networks too, like anything else. And because of that thing, the networks are going to focus on profit over personality. At the end of the day, it's a profit loss statement. It's how much money you can spend and how much money you can make in terms of, because this way they can diversify the audience. They can have multiple different programs going simultaneously in there as opposed to one national one everyone focuses on. And the thing is that each audience can be reflective of that culture. It could be they could even decide to go multi-generation, they go multilingual. They can decide that in a country like Canada, we have several different languages. Instead of having one national anchor paying the news, that we can have 6 anchors doing the exact same news, reflecting the color and flavor of each other's audiences simultaneously. So each audience can view the news from the point of view they want to view it from, and in the language they want to, so they don't have to worry to translate. And there'll be many smaller stars created out of this movement, as opposed to having one national star in one language, one culture, which basically alienates all the other languages and diverse cultures and diverse ways of seeking at things, but because you're paying one big person to get the audience. And you can still put the same advertising. With the advertising, a lot of this advertising can be translated. I mean, many of these ads are already in multiple languages anyway, so you can still have a paid streaming service where each group has a separate anchor, not paid as much money, focusing on a diverse marketplace because the ability of the internet to do so, as opposed to having a broadcaster that broadcasts the message to everyone. You don't have to do that anymore, or you can do it to everyone. I mean, you can either go small or go large, depending on what you want to do. So anyway, this is enough of my rant for today. I'm going to be posting this. I thought I'd be done Sunday night. Hopefully, if I record it, I'll be posting it Monday morning, Monday afternoon sometime. And hope to be doing this more on a regular basis because I need to do this. I need to get my ideas out and talk to people. There's so many things happening, and I want to talk about them, and I need someone to talk to, even if it's just talking to myself, and hoping maybe eventually we have some sort of discourse where we have an audience that's going to continue on talking to our ideas and giving some sort of feedback once I get found, once I get discovered out there among the millions, billions, trillions of voices out there already. Anyway, it's Mike, and hope to see you soon. Like, subscribe, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment on there. Check out my web store and all this stuff there. I'm going to be starting posting links on that. I'm going to be doing some upgrades to the website and the web store soon. Lots of new merchandise that might be coming up. Might be interesting. I hope to design some merchandise regarding the channel and hope to promote the channel on that. Also, let you know there might be some other news coming out about a possible new musical venture from my brother Kevin and his buddy Doug. They were working as a project called Sweet Home Chicago a while back. Some people might be on my Channel Time Media that has some of the Chicago videos at some of the stuff I recorded. As I started going through this process of learning how to record things, I mean, it's pretty amateur, but like I say, it's there. It's a document. It's a testament to that I was there, and there's something that I recorded. And it's there for posterity, and it came up pretty good considering. And as I get better equipment, I hope to become better at this, and hope to diversify into other forms of entertainment, the groups, and that as I become better at this and as I build this empire. This is something I really love. I'm really starting to become more passionate, but I become energized when I'm doing this more than any time anything else in my life, and it's something that's just really, really, really nice to see myself getting into, and I hope that I can have you help me on this journey of discovery and adventure. I mean, because life is an adventure, and the thing is, every time you wake up, it's a new adventure and another opportunity to learn something. So I hope you learned something from me. I hope to learn something from you. I'm going to let you go for a day, and I hope to see you. So I'll start seeing comments from you soon. Take care. Bye for now.